Well, it's probably the first time this ever happened in Love is Blind's history, but the reunion was more dramatic than the weddings. Oh. What's going on, everyone? James here with another real review and recap, and today we're getting into the final week of Love is Blind Season 3. What a journey this has been, guys. If you've been keeping up with me, thank you so much. These are so much fun to produce and put out there and have these conversations about our couples week in and week out. But if you've missed my recaps from weeks 1, 2, and 3, you can find that in the description below or floating right at the top of the screen, because it has been such a blast. This season is probably the best season since season 1, but we're going to get into my spoiler-free thoughts and my spoiler recap, so don't forget there are time codes down below for you to follow along. And hey, before we get into it, if it is your first time here at the channel, welcome to Real James, where I love talking about movies, TV, and well, Love is Blind. So if you do too, hit the big red button below, subscribe to the channel, and tap on that bell. Y'all hit the thumbs up button again if you are a big fan of Love is Blind. And the most important part is your comments down below. So let me know, what did you think of weddings and the reunion? Which moment shocked you and which moment did you expect? I'm not gonna lie, y'all, I was caught off guard a few times this week. So let's waste no more time and get right into my spoiler-free thoughts. Like I just mentioned earlier, this is a much stronger season than season 2 for a lot of reasons. For me, season 2 was really rushed. There weren't a lot of cohesive moments, and I also thought that the production was pretty bad. Now, is the production perfect here? No, but it's at least a step up. And that was my biggest takeaway, is that at least everything felt together. It was much more entertaining as well. There was a lot more drama and clearly some shocking moments during the weddings. It was nice to be wrong with some of my predictions. One of them in particular has to deal with Nancy and Bartiste. But yeah, there were so many different moments where I felt myself basically putting my hands on my head, or my jaw was dropped. So it was incredible to be a part of this ride and this journey. And there were a lot of things in the reunion that I didn't expect. So speaking of the reunion, this is arguably the messiest reunion in Love is Blind's history. A lot of back and forth, some conflicts resolved, some not. And I thought that was the best way to handle the reunion. Was it funny sometimes? Okay, sure, but I was here for the drama, y'all. Y'all know this show is really just, it is bad reality TV in a good way, and that's exactly what episodes 11 and 12 were. But like I just mentioned, my biggest issues this season were with the technical aspects. You have the music, the editing, transitions, and just the overall production sometimes. I will tell you, there were some instances where I felt, oh, this is actually framed very well, or the light leak is really nice, but the music is overbearing, and it is again in episode 11, and I just thought that we didn't need music all the time. Let the silence be what captures your attention and creates tension. But at least it wasn't as bad as season 2, because there was editing there that was unbearable. However, I do think they probably could have spliced together some moments a bit better and maybe not linger so much on boring elements of the show. I'm looking at you, Alexa and Brennan. But alright, y'all. I know you're not here for my spoiler-free thoughts. So before I get into my spoiler recap, let's go ahead and grade this season. I would give it a B-. And listen, I don't do the plus-minus system all the time, alright? But I would give it a B- because it is a step up from season 2, but clearly not as great as season 1, which for me is an A+. That season was incredible. But season 3 at least captures some of the same reality TV show magic that season 1 had. Season 2 is an outlier, and I almost wonder, will they do a season 4? I think they would be fools not to. This show is consistently trending, and guys, I want to keep talking about Love is Blind with you, so let's hope for season 4. Alrighty, y'all. Well, you know what? It's about that time. Spoiler talk is on the way. Your final warning right now for spoilers ahead. So let's get into it and begin with weddings. And where do we leave off after episode 10? With Bartiste's answer to Nancy, who just said "I do" at the altar. Of course, there was a lot of tension and build-up again to this moment, and my prediction was that Bartiste would say yes, but instead, he said "I do not." Now, y'all, the first thing that came to my head was, Nancy's brother is going to be so upset. And you know what? He was. And trust me, they do have a confrontation. What broke my heart was that Nancy was all in on Bartiste, even though we all were pretty much telling Nancy, this ain't it. And Bartiste asked if she wanted to talk, and then they just walked off and they had a conversation one-on-one for a little while, because Nancy's mother was like, I'm gonna take care of my baby. Where's she at? Bartiste, where you at? And then she went in, or was about to go in, on Bartise, and then Bartise was getting snappy, y'all. He was like, this is between Nancy and I, your daughter and I don't owe you an explanation, so-and-so, yada yada. And I'm like, you kind of do in a way owe an explanation. You brought everyone together in a room to tell your fiance I do not, after leading her on to say I do, especially because there were those gifts that were sent to one another in episode 10, and Bartise was making a promise to her saying he's not walking away, so he's leading her on. She says yes, he says no. Of course, Nancy's blindsided. Then Nancy's brother walks over and is still furious, if not even more frustrated in this moment. He's crying, he's arguing, then Bartise's mother comes by, they're arguing. It's just a lot. And Bartise is so badly trying to not take accountability here. He keeps saying things like, this was our decision. Dog, this was your decision, clearly, because she said yes. And yeah, it was just a whole lot of chatter back and forth. I love the line that Steve dropped at Nancy's brother. He said, this little boy over here, is that what he said? A little boy like this is what he said. And then sized him up. I fell out, y'all. That was so funny to me. But also I was like, are they going to go to fisticuffs? I wasn't sure. But yeah, Nancy completely tells Bartise on the staircase, if I'm not mistaken, that they are done. I think Bartise wanted to maybe continue things or see where things go. And then Nancy kept letting him know, I'm sorry, it's over. You ruined this. Whew, what a mess. But that wasn't the only wedding in episode 11. We're moving on now to Colleen and Matt. Here is a couple that listen, I didn't know what to expect. The way they were editing both of their moments leading up to their wedding ceremony made it seem like they both didn't have a decision made, and I do believe they didn't. Seriously, I thought, oh, alright, dramatics and all this, but I do believe Colleen when she said she didn't really have a decision made until she was at the altar, and Matt wouldn't make his until Colleen was walking down. So, oof, boy, that is kind of tough when you don't really know what the other one's gonna say, but Matt having a conversation with his friends is what I thought would lead him to say no, because Reed, one of Matt's best friends, tells Matt that I don't think you're ready for marriage. And I thought it was in that moment where Matt was going to say, you know what, I'm done, I do not. And then when you couple that with Colleen's bridesmaids saying that Matt isn't her type, Colleen began to look really unsure about everything, especially during Matt's vows. Colleen's face, like, she seemed at first kind of conflicted. Maybe she was even still making her decision then and there. But eventually, the officiant asks Colleen first, do you take this man to be your lawfully wedded husband, for richer, for poorer? And then he just keeps going on, and I'm thinking, just ask the question. And then Colleen, she says, I do. And that shocked the heck out of me, y'all. So now it's up to Matt. What does Matt say? Well, this man goes on a tangent for a little while, but eventually says, I do. And I was floored. Listen, I did not think that this was going to work. Matt's temper, Colleen's inability to get vulnerable enough, and also the little tiff with Cole and Colleen. I was thinking, like, is this really gonna happen? But eventually both of them decided to get married, and they walked down the aisle husband and wife, and I was happy for them, but wondering, are they gonna still be together in the reunion? But we'll get there. So now let's transition to Cole and Zaneb, and if you were to tell me Cole and Zaneb would be the most dramatic couple in the show back in episode 1 or 2, I would call you a fool. But now, I'm gonna call you a truther, because oh my gosh, what the heck? Both of these people were clearly not ready to marry one another, and well, one of them felt that way as well. So the way they edited their dramatic moments together, like recapping, before they get into the ceremony, it took me out, I'm not gonna lie, because it kind of showcases a lot of what's wrong with Cole and a lot of the insecurities that Zaneb, she's still fighting to overcome. But eventually we get these one-on-one moments in their rooms before the ceremony, and it's still heartbreaking to see Zaneb talk about her parents with her mom Beverly, and yeah, it just really kind of made this moment feel more real to me. Cole seems a little unsure with his pals, but eventually they kind of cut through that pretty quickly, and for good reason, because that ceremony, y'all. Well, everything's going according to plan so far. I figured, okay, they're both going to say I love you, and it sounds like they're going to go through with this. If anything, my prediction went from pessimistic to optimistic pretty quickly in the middle of them saying their vows to one another, but eventually we get to the part where you either say I do or I do not, and Zaneb says I do not. And color me surprised, but I thought in that moment, go ahead, girl. Go ahead. And go ahead she did, because not only did she say I do not, but she went in on Cole. She read him like a book. in this moment. She says Cole's disrespected her, manipulated her, put her down, and I was thinking, timeout. There are actual people in attendance here. This sounds like a one-on-one conversation. Do I think it should have been a one-on-one conversation? Yes, because it does embarrass Cole. Zanab was just speaking her mind, you know, and she just went in on him. And yeah, Cole was really taken aback here because I think he was ready to say I do. And even the officiant was feeling awkward, like I did not expect this at all. But when the guest, I should say Zanab's side of the room, started clapping, her friends, it kind of added on to that embarrassment factor for Cole, almost like it was a versus match, right? Cole versus Zanab. Fight! Yeah, I don't necessarily think that was the smartest thing to do. You don't really want to stoke the fire there. But, you know, Cole's friends surrounded him. And a lot probably went on behind the scenes, guys, that we didn't know about. Especially the cutie story, which we'll get to in a little bit. Cole eventually says he was blindsided, and Zanab explains that Cole's family not wanting to welcome her played a huge part in her decision to say I don't, among other things. Alrighty, guys, so let's get into the final engaged couple on their wedding day, and that is Alexa and Brennan. What did I tell you guys? I told y'all this is the safest bet for an I do on both sides. And that's pretty much what happened, but let me not get ahead of myself here. I have some comments leading up to the ceremony, and maybe these are comments I've had made previously, I can't remember. But Alexa and the way she speaks, it's like, listen, that's her distinct personality trait, but I latched onto the fact that she keeps calling herself she, like speaking in third person, and I'm like, stop. But that was probably the most entertaining moment leading up to the ceremony because it just was not dramatic nor entertaining, and that kind of sums up their time on this show. However, it was an interesting ceremony. They're trying to blend two things, right? Like Jewish tradition and culture plus Brennan's side of the family, which he did say that his family is Catholic. So they were trying to do two things at once. I found it weird that Alexa's dad was chewing gum walking down the aisle. And I was like, all right, I wouldn't think that would be a thing to do when you're at a wedding. You probably shouldn't chew gum, but I digress. Brennan's vows were really nice to Alexa. You know, he's been probably the most genuine person on the show, I'm not gonna lie, because he means everything he says. And then eventually you get to the I do or I don't portion, and both of them say I do. I mean, that's not a surprise, that's not a shock. I don't want to linger on this too long because we got a reunion to talk about. So, you know what? Let's just get into it. Episode 12 is all about the reunion, and it's hosted by Vanessa and Nick Lachey, and we didn't really see them get involved too much in the middle of some of these riffs with our couples, and I'm kind of happy about that because it allowed everything to air out. But before we get into some of the dramatic moments, I want to make one comment. Nick Lachey is shady, y'all, with the eye drops moment with Andrew, and then they both reveal that he was invited to come to the reunion and declined to fly. And the minute they revealed that, Raven and all the girls were like, thank God. They were not having it, man. They were really not having it. So, I mean, not having Andrew. They were having it that he's not there. But it was a messy moment. So, all right, let's get into where our couples are during the reunion. And we'll begin with our married couples, Matt and Colleen. They reveal that they're still together, but that they don't live together. That made me scratch my chin. And I was wondering, that doesn't sound right. But they explained why, and I thought, okay, they have a plan. So in 2 months, they plan to not break their leases, but let their leases go and then find a place together. But currently, they don't want to break their leases and leave their roommates hanging dry. They still spend time together, they said, during the week, except for laundry day or whatever they mentioned. But they seem to be at least in a comfortable place. However, it feels, based on their body language, that there's like a little bit of uncertainty about how they're going to get into a home together. To be honest, there were barely any conversations with them in the reunion, but there was a moment towards the end where Colleen thanks Matt for helping her become vulnerable. And I thought that was pretty sweet because it's true, Colleen was not vulnerable, y'all, not even with her parents this season. So it was kind of tough to break her out of that shell, but Matt even reveals that he's fallen deeper in love with his wife, Colleen, because of her work ethic and everything that she does on the side outside of their marriage. And I thought, all right, that sounds genuine. So let's move on to Alexa and Brennan. Now, they also revealed that they are still together during the reunion and they're living together. However, they're having some issues. And some of these issues were kind of boring. I mean, they even opened up with, and I don't know why they did this because it made me worried for the rest of the reunion. They opened up with a conversation about how they share closet space. And I thought this is not a great start to the reunion. It's not engaging enough. Why was this even a segment? Y'all could have spoke about this. Why do we have to film it? But eventually, you start to see them get involved in different conversations, and they start adding a little bit of fuel to certain arguments and fires. But Alexa eventually reveals that she has never been loved like Brennan before, or like Brennan has loved her before. And so her sarcasm comes out every now and then, and that kind of explains why I think she's like talking the way she does, is speaking the way she does, especially in this season, where I'm like, you're kind of pushing it off. I mean, she even said at one point after they got married, cheers to forever or whatever. And I'm like, girl, whatever. This is important. This is an important moment. But it's because she reveals that her family would always show love in a sarcastic way. So it just goes to show you that the way people are brought up, that's, who they are, but that doesn't mean they can't change who they are in a positive way, of course. So it was beautiful to see both of them still together, and I hope they are still together. However, these next couples are definitely not together. Let's begin with Nancy and Bartise. I mean, gosh, you might as well have given them boxing gloves. The first thing I noticed, of course, is Bartise's hair, this man bun. Thought, homeboy, not sure about that. But Bartise and Nancy were going back and forth on their relationship and what happened, of course, around them. Yes, we're looking at Bartise in that Raven moment. But Bartise reveals during the reunion that he wonders what would have happened if he would have said yes. And this is like actually, I think, killing Nancy inside, because she genuinely fell for this man. And he keeps harping on the fact like, oh, I loved her, but I don't necessarily know what would have happened if I said yes. I wasn't ready to say yes. Well, maybe I would still say yes, like leaving her kind of on the hook. But Nancy, I'm proud of her for standing her ground, sticking in and saying, you know what? We're done, bro. There is nothing after this. You broke my heart in the worst way possible, clearly. So, Nancy, she's crushed, but she's at least sticking up for herself. And then I found it interesting that Bartise was apparently dating a girl the day after their wedding. They were explaining something about this video after the ceremony where Bartise was next to this blonde woman and then eventually hooked up with her on a boat on 4th of July. And this is Bartise's words too. Like, none of this is rumor. This is a first-hand account. And nobody mentioned that he had sexual encounters with her, but Bartise brought it up and told on himself. So that leads me to believe one thing. If you really loved Nancy and you kept saying that love is blind, we have an emotional connection, why was it that you went out with the blonde girl literally the day after your wedding and then slept with her? Not too long, it sounds like, after the wedding. Not a great look. The optics don't look good on that one. I'm just not the biggest fan of Bartise, honestly. I do believe he is a snake. And yeah, it was just a whole mess. And for me, Bartise came out looking a lot worse after this reunion. So let's transition to Cole and Zaneb. This is the couple that they focused on the most in the reunion. And for good reason, y'all. Woo, boy, I know there are some people that fall on Cole's side and some people that fall on Zaneb's in the comments. I've seen them. I hear you. I do kind of side with Zaneb a little bit more in most situations because Cole's immaturity and the way he spoke with Colleen and talking about physically being in love with her, like, what are y'all doing? It was really weird. And Cole, in a way, gaslights Zaneb a little bit in this reunion. We'll get there. They begin with the Cole and Colleen pool party conversation, and Colleen apologized to Zaneb and Matt, which I thought was really nice. However, Cole eventually begins to try and explain himself and use the word insane, like it's insane that you would feel this way, Zaneb. But Brennan told Cole not to use that word insane, and I thought, Brennan, you are looking out, bro. And then Cole says crazy, and Brennan's like, it's a synonym, relax. So it was nice to see them kind of sticking up for Zaneb there in that moment. But Bartise and SK were pretty much defending Cole, trying to get the room to settle down and let this man speak. And well, I mean, I'm glad they let him speak, but it didn't make Cole look good necessarily. Although Cole gets to a place where he says it was totally his fault that the conversation even began. And do I believe that there's fault on both sides? Yeah, Colleen and Cole should have never had that conversation. One of them should have ended it. But Cole held himself accountable in a way. And then Cole was talking more so about the way that the moments were edited together, because Zaneb was, nagging Cole about picking up his clothes, cleaning up after himself, the way he would cook, the unseasoned chicken, which is a crime. But man, Cole revealed something that Zaneb actually agreed with, which is they were more so in the middle versus it just being Cole being a victim and Zaneb nagging all the time. And Zaneb appreciated that. She even said thank you under her breath. So listen, producers going to produce. They're going to edit things in reality television shows like this to make it seem like there's one clear victim and one clear aggressor. So it's interesting to see that dynamic being talked about after the fact. And Zeneb did a really nice thing here where she admits she could have shown more grace. But then shortly afterwards, Alexa is just stoking the fire, calling Cole basically a child boy, and was just, well, she didn't say that, but you know what I mean. Alexa's had it out for Cole since day one, calling him deceitful. That's the word she used. Y'all, I thought, my gosh, this is about to go down, and go down it did. And it was all because of this next moment. Raven gets involved and says that Cole got a girl's number at the bachelor party. What is going on? It's like Bartice's influence is floating around the room. It's insane here. So Cole denies this. Cole gets defensive, says they went to a rodeo and then a saloon, but the girls went and got body parts swung in their faces. So I'm not gonna lie, homie, don't try to deflect. You gotta just answer. Defend yourself, but don't deflect and try to put it off on the women here. Nancy said the guys definitely went out after the saloon, where she then says that Cole told her about this girl and maybe kissing a girl. I'm like, yo, I don't think Cole kissed the girl, but Cole was telling Zeneb, allegedly, that this happened, I got a girl's number, and a girl and I almost kissed. Dog, that is bad. And then Zeneb goes in even more and says the producers protected Cole. So at this point, they're arguing pretty heavily. I mean, heck, this is the first time they've seen each other since their wedding and spoken to one another was at the reunion. Are you kidding me? So there was a lot of unresolved trauma, drama, whatever word you want to throw in there, y'all. But yeah, Raven then chimes in again and says Cole never holds himself accountable. It sounds like they're piling on the Cole here. And it's true, they were. But then this next moment is one that they revisit at the end of the reunion, which is Zeneb saying that Cole tried to control her eating habits. The whole thing about the cuties, you know, the oranges, and they're actually pretty darn good, not gonna lie, my girlfriend got me on them. But these little oranges, right, that are, I mean, you eat 2 of them, I guess they're a serving, they're not filling, they're a good little snack, but come on, y'all, it's not that big of a deal. Zeneb said that Cole made it a big deal. Cole apparently tells Zeneb to not eat that and hold off, save your appetite for dinner. Now, it doesn't sound too bad, but Zeneb's definitely at a breaking point, I think, at this moment. Well, at least when this was filmed, so I can understand why she took it offensively. And then what do they do at the end of the reunion, the very end? They actually show the footage from the cuties debacle, and it doesn't sound too bad. For the most part, I do think Zeneb maybe stretched the truth and how it sounded a little bit on the reunion, maybe played it up, but Cole and her were having a conversation about maybe doing their wedding reception or another ceremony in England to include her sister and aunts, uncles, and cousins, which I don't definitely get. You know, I think that's actually a pretty sincere thing to talk about. However, it is weird that Cole would make that comment to Zeneb about saving your appetite, and then he followed it up with, oh, are you eating, you know, just these oranges? Is it a wedding dress bod thing? You already know that your fiance at this point has insecurities about her image. Why would you bring that up? To me, it felt like a weird comment, but I do think that, you know, Cole had some sort of truth in what he was saying about it not being anything that he meant to hurt Zeneb with. But Cole was saying that he didn't say any of that, and the cameras show otherwise. He didn't mention that whole appetite thing in the wedding dress bod, so very interesting, y'all. And then eventually, just before the reunion ended, Cole apologizes to everyone and says he actually regrets the experience because of how he hurt Zeneb. But Zeneb said she didn't regret the experience one bit and would do it all over again if it meant discovering herself because of the way Cole treated her, which is like a backhanded compliment now that I think about it. But man, Cole was a hot mess. He was a wreck, crying and everything. So yeah, basically Cole was a public enemy #1 this season, guys. And lastly, before we end our final recap for season 3, let's talk about Raven and SK, because there was a surprise they shared. No, don't worry, no babies on the way. Stop this. Well, they're dating again. What? I did not expect this, but they're dating even though they're doing the long distance thing, and they seem, at least on the reunion, they seem to be in a good place. But before they even get to that surprise and reveal, SK said he made the decision at the altar, and that even though they're dating now, he didn't feel like it was right for them to get married in that moment. And then eventually the producers do what they gonna do, and they had a Nancy and Raven moment where they were showing the footage and how they were throwing shade at each other, because lest you forget, they were definitely shady towards one another off camera. So it was interesting. However, Bartice chimed in here, which is like boy, bye. But Bartise said there wasn't a moment that he regretted his decision when he saw Raven. So you remember that conversation that Nancy and Bartise had where Bartise is calling Raven a smoke show, which is such a terrible adjective. Like, dog, be better. But even then, you're engaged. What are you doing? So I think Bartise is lying in that moment, and I believe that Raven felt he was lying too. But, you know, Bartise said he feels ashamed of what he said and did, embarrassed for himself, of course, after what he said when it came to Raven. And okay, hopefully he grows. That's my hope, is that he grows from this, because that was not great. And SK felt the same way because he said it was completely inappropriate. But yeah, Raven and SK dating again. So it's going to be interesting. Will Raven and SK get to another point where they feel comfortable being engaged after SK, of course, finishes school? Because it seems like Raven does not want to uproot her life, I believe, in Dallas to go to the West Coast. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. And I'm curious to see, of course, will Alexa and Brennan and Colleen and Matt really make it for the rest of their lives? Because the only couple so far that's remained a wedded couple is Lauren and Cameron from season 1. So what gives, y'all? Will we see another, you know, couple that lasts forever or as long as them? So only time will tell. But speaking of time, that's all I got, right, for this review and recap. Thank you all so much again for sticking with me. And if you're already here at this point in the video, go ahead and hit the big red button below and subscribe to the channel, because not only do we talk about Love is Blind, but I drop reactions, we drop news videos and reviews for the latest films and TV shows just like this. So again, I appreciate you all tuning in and letting me know your thoughts on some of these couples, because your commentary, let's just say it makes me laugh 100% of the time. It's really good, y'all. Oh, I love talking with you guys about this show. Alrighty, again, thanks so much for watching, and I'll catch you at the next screening. And now I really want some oranges, so I'm gonna go to Whole Foods app. Be right back.